Hey, I'm little. Here I am. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. It's your favorite paranormal investigator. My name is Tim Sedano, and of course, the first thing I have to say today is Happy New Year. It's 2026. Can you believe it? And it is essentially the anniversary of my show here on the UPRN, where I got a bigger audience and I have all you wonderful people out there. We're going to have some people joining us in the chat soon. So while things queue up and people join us, and I know I'm suffering from a bit of a food coma still. Believe it or not, food coma. I didn't really drink that much. I just had the celebratory little sip of champagne, and that the rest of that bottle's probably going to go to waste, to be completely honest with you. But case raw, I'm not a big drinker. But excuse me. One of the things I like to do when it is a new year is reflect. I mean, a lot of us do. So this episode is going to have us looking back at the year of paranormal insight to a degree. We're going to examine the four highest rated shows as far as viewership goes. Not necessarily the highest rated shows across the world, but the ones that on my channel, on my personal channel, I saw a large number of viewers and reviewers. Hey, we lost two people. Oh my goodness. Anyway, so with that said, I'm going to knock something over. With that said, let me get that out of the way real quick. Let's talk about the year in review, just briefly. We're going to take a look at four different interviews, and one of them is one of our cases from Scary. And that's going to be the last one. So if you want to watch the one that is truly the one I experienced myself, that's the one you really want to hang out for. But the rest is great. We have Ron Moorhead. We're going to take a look at his stuff. We're going to take a look at listen to the Sierra Sounds one more time. We're going to do little bits and pieces of that interview and just kind of create a general discussion about what was going on there, what Ron's take and or beliefs are. And he's a pretty down to earth guy, believe it or not. He brought in a lot of experts to really help break down what it was. And I see we have Heidi in the chat. Hi, Heidi. Happy New Year. And happy anniversary. Oh, you're very sweet. Thank you so much. Happy anniversary to all of us. For those of you who stuck it out for a year with your best friend, Tim. Hello, Sherry's here. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy anniversary. It's good times. Good times. Hello, hello, hello. And welcome to the show. I was just, before I figure I'd let things populate for the first 5 minutes because we're getting more and more viewers. I got a thumbs up on there. Thank you for that. Thank you so much, Heidi. Your favorite paranormal investigator. Little Cam's here. All right. Present, she said in the chat. Like I'm taking roll call. But, one of these days we'll have to. Just for the fun of it. So, year in review, 4 cases we're going to look at. The first one is going to be Ron Moorhead. I interviewed him very early on in my UPRN life, I guess you can call it. And Happy New Year to all of you in the chat and watching at home. If you missed what I said before, I wished everyone a Happy New Year, and there was a bunch of zeros looking at me, and now I got a whole bunch of people. So welcome once again. Happy New Year. And let's talk about a little bit about Bigfoot. I'm going to put Ron up on the stage here, and I believe I got it all queued up. I should probably make a quick adjustment. So before we look at Ron, let me make a very brief adjustment on my end, just so I can execute this with a little more plum, I guess is the word. It's not the word I was looking for, but you get the general idea. Efficiency, I guess, is the word. So gonna stick that up there. You'll see me looking up from time to time because my preview monitor's up here. Just so you know that I'm not staring off into space and stuff. Okay, I do believe we're ready to go. So, Ron is going to talk to us a little bit about the Bigfoot footage. I'm going to show him a clip of Patty, and we're going to look at his response. And it's really cool. It's really, really, really cool. I love the this is the Patterson Gimlin footage, by the way. So, without further ado, let's. I hate it when that happens. Sorry, there's a little thing on this side of the and it just doesn't want to play. There we go. Well, that's not it either. That'll work. Okay. Hang it. Let's hit play. And I hope you can hear this. I will I may have to dip the mic in a little low so you can hear what's going on. So let's start back in time real quick. I'm going to play a video for us to look at real quick. You probably know this. It's kind of what got everyone's imagination going. This is the Patterson Gimlin film from '67. Yeah, this is the original film. It's been digitized, obviously, but there it is. And we're going to see Patty herself walking across the field in a little bit. In fact, let me get to that right away. In fact, okay, that's the cameraman getting off the horse. That's why it's so rocky. And there she is. And man, does this just spark everyone's imagination when they first saw it. Do you remember seeing this when it was first reported?
Oh, we've seen it a little while later when it got popular on this. Yeah.
What were your thoughts initially?
Well, we knew we ran across something significant up there, and we wanted to see everything we could. I wanted to learn everything I could about it, what's going on.
Now, I will interject here on the video because, yep, come on, machine. There we go. I will interject here. Here, I'll do it like that. There, pardon me, I'm eating something. I will interject here because, yeah, it's two Tims. Yeah, there's two me. I know, I was in the lower section there, chewing and eating. But he was up in, I think he says 74. That's where he recorded the Sierra Sounds. And we'll get to the Sierra Sounds themselves in a little bit here. But he's going to take two different looks at Patty walking across there. And when you look at the second one, I want you all to just marvel, if you'll allow, at what it is that we're looking at. I mean, it's amazing, I think. All right, let us continue.
All they left us, they leave us in clips like that. They left us recordings of some pictures of some pretty huge footprints.
Good job, I think. Isn't it? Not only cleaning up the film, but stabilizing it and making it a little more recognizable.
Well, it wasn't. It was several years, 71 through 76. Well, actually through now.
Okay. You still go up to the same place? And
18, the last time I was up there. 2018.
Okay. And you go up to that same location?
Yeah, it's all, a lot of it's burned up now since California had its wildfires in 2018.
Wow.
When we were there, actually, it was real smoky. And anyway, yeah, the campsite's still there, but it's not like it used to be. The area.
At least the area is still there. Okay, so let me go back to me. Do that. Sorry, the program is not cooperating with me. It gave me a weird layout, and now everything's kind of funky. But nonetheless, when we look at that footage with a pro, a witness nonetheless, like Ron Moorhead, I don't know if you caught it, but he had a big smile on his face because he has seen these creatures live. He only recorded their sounds, and I think he might have a few photos and stuff in his archives as well of footprints. I think he mentioned that. But imagine having, he said 71 to 2018 after the fires took out that area. That is amazing. Do you not have, okay, audio's good. Sorry, I hit a weird button on my side. What was I going to say? Yep, I thought it went away. Sorry, I was reading the the thingy over here, chat. But Ron had a big smile on his face, and he's been doing this from 71 to 2018. That's a big span of time. And he's still one of the go-to experts in the field of Bigfoot research. The next clip I'm going to show you, it's a little bit further ahead. P.S. You might see the cassette recorder. That's the cassette recorder type that they use to capture all these wild sounds. So, and it comes in two different bits. So let me fast forward a little bit. And I'm sorry I don't have this better laid out, but here we go. This is more of Ron Moorhead. We're going to play the Sierra Sounds here, unless you want to play them.
No, I believe they're not handy for me, but go ahead. Go play something. Tell me what it's about or what it says, and I'll give a little preview if you want me to.
Okay. I'm sorry. Well, it's okay. We're just listening, so. Let me pause for just a moment.
Question was?
I'm just letting everyone know. Yeah, we had the pause. This is a pre-recording. And now we're back on. So I was going to play the Sierra Sounds, but I wanted you, Ron, to maybe talk about it first.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This happened mid-1971. Started with me. I was 29 at the time, but it's not like we just went in, recorded, and went out. When you go up there, you have to stay a while because it's such a long distance, and it goes in. Once you get there, you set up camp and stay there and for 3 or 4 days or 2 or 3 days or whatever you can do. Just gotta let the animals rest up a little bit. And if we did walk in, you want to rest up because your legs are so out of shape. It's 8,400 feet elevation. You got to climb up to over 10,000 feet just to get there. And like I say, it's 8 miles in the wilderness, so very imposing place to get to. So when we went in with the supplies to last us for a while. Then we actually hauled some barrels in to pack our supplies in. So when we did walk in, we didn't have to carry so much. There were sleeping bags there and reading barrels, bear proof, and food too.
Wow.
So that's how we could walk in and not have to worry about packing so much because it really works salt out of you when you pack so much on your back. So anyway, that's how we did it. If they came in, which a lot of times they did in 71, 72, and all the way through till 74. 76 is the last time we recorded them. And I say recorded, I'm not sure if we even recorded that night because one was screaming up behind us. And then a bear was tearing up our supply barrels out there. So we had to check that out and work on that. So that was... Anyway, we ended up having to shoot a bear, which didn't want to do, but it was taking all our food. We didn't want that either. Anyway, that's
That makes
kind
sense.
of
I get it.
the idea of what it's like up there. We hauled a stove in too and then put it together on mules. So it was a good place to go if you want to just relax and hang out. Now, all the other guys were up there.
That's on the Bigfoot.
I hadn't been a hunter prior to 71, but the Johnson brothers, who have been going up there since 1958, they were there to hunt. And they weren't, nobody's looking
I think
for
I took the wrong note
Tell-
as to when the
tell-
Sierra sounds kick in. So let me fast forward to my next time. Because he's talking. He's still talking. Let me get to 17. I'm a very twitchy, itchy person, aren't I? I'm just realizing that. That's me just listening to him talk. Okay, I think this might be it.
I mean, it's more physical description.
Well, it was tall. I don't know. You can't tell. They're going so fast. It was tall. Obviously, they get tall when they get older. And this was a male, I'm pretty sure, because it's the one that did the samurai cry that had been coined years ago. Sounded very Asian-like. So anyway, he got down to the other ones, and they started commotioning some more. I think they were concerned about getting too close, or maybe the little one, because there is a little voice that I recorded. We had some little prints up there in the snow. So there was a little one up there, and he was maybe getting too close. I don't know. But there's no danger because we wasn't even wanting to shoot at one. That wasn't even part of our parameters there. We just want to learn more about them and what we're dealing with. Because at first, when we started dealing with them all this time, we thought they were just some kind of ape that hadn't been identified, like so many researchers do now. But they're a lot more than that. A lot more than that. They're like a people, and I think I discovered over the years that they have to have a human component to them. And that's not because of DNA, it's because of the studies we've had done on the sounds, which Dr. Curlin did in 1978, I think it was, maybe somewhere in there. He wrote a paper on it, actually, and presented it to the Anthropology Unknown in British Columbia. And that was pretty unique because it showed it was above the human range, inside the human range, and below the human range. And it represented, the little clip that he studied for this represented an animal compared to the human vocal mechanism. It represented an animal that was over 8 foot tall. So that was good. But it went till the cryptolinguist got a hold of it in 2008. Scott Nelson, who had been trained by the military, 2-time graduate of the
Scott Nelson
Military Foreign Language Institute in Monterey. And
I have to pause. Scott Nelson is someone I want to get on the show, P.S. Scott would be amazing to have on the show. So if anyone knows, actually, I could just talk to Ron about that now that I think of it. Anyway, he goes on for a little bit, and then I think we're going to say, let's listen to the sounds. So Scott Nelson got a hold of it, and he says, yeah, man, here's the dynamic range of these things. He confirmed that the range of these creatures was nothing short of just okay, let's back it up. I think it's at 1700. Okay, well, we're gonna have to go from 1650.
Changes what they want to create the power and the control. And when you get into the cuneiform text, that's where a lot of it, that's where the core of it all is. And so there's where I went with my studies and still am.
So I should preface that, not preface, but whatever the opposite of preface is. I should say, when he mentions the cuneiform tablets, he's talking about the ancient Sumerians and how they, at least according to his research, dealt with creatures very much like Sasquatch, and indeed may be a remnant, and others have said this as well, of the human race, which is intriguing as all get out, because you dive really kind of deep into ancient astronaut theory, which says astronauts came down from another world or whatever, and basically restructured some of the local hominids, us, and became, and modified our genetics to be the modern human. That's the theory. That's what a lot of people hypothesize. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my frame here. Oh, I'm in a different mode. That's why. But it's weird. But anyway, what he says here is the cuneiform tablets related to all that, the Sumerian, the Mesopotamian stuff, locks that in. I mean, that's it. There's no. It's a solid conclusion as far as his research is concerned, which I find deeply fascinating. But let's move on and talk and listen to the Sierra sounds, which are coming up pretty quick.
So just interrupt me anytime, Tim. I'm just chatting away for an hour here.
Let me interrupt you here then. Interrupt you here then. Let's play those sounds. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a crude playback because the system didn't accept the files I had prepared.
Oh, Tim with his
so this will be a loud playback,
problems.
and do forgive the crudity of them. Here we go.
It's amazing. Okay, that's them.
Me.
That's him.
It's not me.
Listen to that. I'm going to play that back because I've been talking over this. I am so intrigued by this entire thing.
Whoever starts the transfer, whoever does that, whoever say Constantine or so.
Okay, let me get to it. I'm going to start. Okay, there we go.
The system didn't accept.
Okay.
Prepared. So this will be a loud playback, and do forgive the crudity of them. Here we go.
I'll dial down my stuff. Oops.
It's me. It's not me.
Now, I think we changed to a different recording just now. But that first section, I clearly hear language. Clearly. It's and given the area, I know you described about where this is, and I have a slide related to that. First, let me show this.
Yeah.
If it will come up. Nope, that's cassette recorder. There we go.
Good times.
That's a cassette recorder. There we go. Now, this isn't the best graphic in the world, but this highlights the different Native American languages. And in my research for this particular interview, I think this is roughly where you were. Roughly, my stuff might be off, and I don't know if you can read these. Okay, so this is roughly where you're at, and if you look at the languages, and these are still languages spoken today in the reservations in those areas. We have Paiute chiefly, Miwok, and if you listen to those two languages or examples of those languages, and this is in my own personal research, and your cryptolinguist probably knows way more than I do. In fact, I'm sure he does. It has elements of these two languages and even some Algonquin accents to it. So my guess is, and this is only a guess, that when they heard you, and I'm glad the recording had your voices on there mimicking what you heard, when they heard a human, it sounds to me like they were trying to speak to you guys to one degree or another. And there's a female, a higher pitched voice, maybe female, and definitely a lower pitched voice, which I would interpret as male, assuming any human similarities there. And it seems to me like they were trying to pinpoint what tribe they were talking to.
He would go on to say, well, actually, I'll just let him say it.
That's my interpretation. I'm not sure if that's the case or not.
Well, we're sure they have language. The ones we deal with have language. Now, the ones that are all over the world, which they are, I've been into Russia, Siberia, I've been all over the planet. They're not all the same. I don't think, because I think I got a good explanation for that. But what they were doing there is definitely trying to ask me something, and I didn't realize what anything meant, so I just kind of mimicked them back, and that's where that night went.
Okay, so he semi-confirmed what I said. Not totally, but semi-confirmed my hypothesis that they were trying to communicate. And again, my research, I even called the Paiute Nation themselves and had a conversation with them. Thank you for the love, by the way. I'm seeing all the hearts show up. That's awesome. When I talked to the Paiute Nation people, it was... first off, it was like pulling teeth, and I get it. They're trying to protect their heritage and not looking to openly say this, that, the other thing, because I think if they indulge outsiders, per se, outside the reservation, outside the nation, it could affect their funding, from what I understand, but I don't know for sure, but they were pretty guarded about it. They are anyway, because this is oral tradition. Oral tradition told down the generations about these creatures. And apparently, oral tradition holds that they were friendly with them, traded with them at one point or another. And then things went south because of one thing or another. And they became an enemy of the nations. I mean, all of them. And it was just a matter of keep away from them. If you see them or hear them, just steer wide, well clear. And but my hypothesis is that they probably either heard or smelled or somehow observed that Ron and his people, his buddies, were up there. And Ron also suspects that there was a young one that got way too close to camp. Curious kids, right? They run off all the time. And if you saw that and I wish I had the foresight to bring that up here, but okay, so there was and it's under investigation, by the way. I'm not saying this is legit, but there was a very recent internet post, either TikTok or Instagram, where a trail cam caught a parent and or guardian, a parent and a child Bigfoot. And the child looks not too just like a chimpanzee, but walking upright very comfortably. It has that curious little kid thing and sticking close to the parent there, probably mom. And mom is curious. It's like, yeah, something's off. Like she sensed the camera, maybe saw the light. Ron would later go on to say that they can see the infrared spectrum rather well. So, there is that. So, getting back to what I was saying, I think that's what was happening back in the 70s there. They were trying to pinpoint what tribe these humans were from. Because the Indians, Native Americans, are not out there anymore, per se. They have very isolated pockets that they exist in. And they may go hunting once in a while, but not to the extent they used to. And I think if I had to put myself in the Sasquatch mindset, I may be aware of the modernity. That's a weird word. I think I just made it up. Of modern man and people and how they operate, more or less. But I don't know if they know the geopolitical reality of the situation that the people they used to interact with are no longer present in the area that these guys are migrating through. And I say migrating because there was a show very recently filled with researchers, and I trust the show for the most part. And the name escapes me naturally. Expedition Bigfoot, maybe? Don't quote me on that one. I might be thinking of the wrong one. It's the one where they had the lady primatologist. That one. If anyone in the chat knows, let me know the title of that show. That's the only distinction I can give on the show. The lady primatologist. And she's actually very good at her job. Her adherence to empirical evidence is a little annoying sometimes, but I digress. They, in that show, discovered that there is a mating area that tribes, for the most part, for lack of a better term, I should say, of Sasquatch come from the north and the south, meet up here in Washington State area. Somewhere there's a huge forest out there too. Somewhere in the Washington State area, and there's a mating area there. And they went at the height of mating season, which to me was freaking stupid, but I get it. You want to be there where the action is. But it seems to me that for being a mating season, they probably got the geography wrong. I mean, there's sightings and stuff in that area, but it also, you see, I think their theory's wrong. I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but we're talking about Bigfoot. So their theory is that North and South come meet, interbreed, whatever. Perhaps new family groups are formed, old family groups are repopulated. I don't know. But if these creatures have a migration to them, and it's similar to birds or pretty much any other mammal on the planet who migrates, they're going to go. And it's, I mean, I get it. They're covered in fur. They're hardy individuals that can stand really extreme temperatures, hot or cold, more so than we can to a degree, as research has more or less determined. But if you look at California's a good meeting spot, actually. Meeting spot, not mating spot, although that could happen too. I really don't know. But if the Washington thing is the ideal spot, that spot in the forest that they centered their investigation, I would assume it's on someone else's trail, or there's a confluence of migrations that go through that area, north and south. And they're not meeting in the middle. They're meeting at a junction, at a point. Probably, whatever, whenever mating season has spring, right? So they're out there in spring and doing their research and stuff. Man, I'd love to be on. That would be so much fun to be on that thing. That'd be great. That'd be cool. But I digress. Okay, so Ron gave us a lot to think about. I have more clips here, but we're running a little short on time, and I kind of have to move on to the next thing. And the next thing is, and this is going to be a little bit shorter. This is going to be, although longer in a sense, because I got to play a clip from a thing real quick. So let me get him out of there and close this. Actually, I'm going to delete that. So as we move forward, I have to say Ron Moorhead's insights, and it's not just limited, I recorded Bigfoot once and suddenly I'm an expert. No. He did research. They went up there for, 70, 80, 90, 100, 2000 rather. And then the 2010s, almost 2020. So he was up there for 60 years. I want you to consider that. 60 years of field research that isn't his actual background. He's an outdoorsman, maybe. Not really a hunter per se, by his own admission. But to go back without any, I don't know what his educational background is. I don't think it's in cryptozoology or primatology or any of that, or even general biology, not that I'm aware of. But that's a commitment, and I admire that. I admire that just beyond words. To be a civilian so taken with an experience, you take a very scientific approach and look at this, that. Every aspect, try to dismiss it, can't, and are forced to find the answers that fill in the gaps, the questions you have. And he was saying they were seeing these things up until about 2018 and hearing them and seeing their footprints in the dirt. Brings up an interesting question I wish I had thought to ask. Where does Bigfoot go when there's a forest fire? Probably like any other forest dwelling individual or creature or entity, whatever it is you want to call it, you're going to scatter where things aren't burning. I'm sure they've explored that forest forward, backward, left, right, and center, and have that pretty much on lockdown as far as the geography goes. So let us move on. Quick question out the audience too. Are you hearing double audio when I have my mic on? I don't know because the playback doesn't allow me to hear it. Doesn't that suck? But I got the mic kind of near my computer right now, kind of serving as the conduit, audio conduit, if you will. So let me get our next guest up here, so to speak, and that is Mr. Stephen Bassett. Now, Stephen Bassett was an interesting interview. He is the guy who he's kind of on the less typical spectrum when it comes to disclosure, as he calls it, capital D disclosure. And he calls it that because capital D disclosure is the one where the government's involved and professional witnesses. I guess that's a stupid thing to say, professional witnesses, but witnesses are, documented witnesses are involved, a la, and in the vein of the senatorial hearings, the committee meetings we've been privy to with Grush and Alonzo and all those guys. And he has an interesting take on how these things are put together, perceived, and all that fun stuff. And when you look at this, you will see that I am blurry as crap because my internet connection was, pretty grody. Probably is now. I don't know. I don't have a way to gauge that. I hope you can all see me okay. But as I bring Mr. Stephen Bassett up, my question to him is, what is this disclosure, about? And this is going to go for almost 10 minutes. So be video good. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you, Heidi. I appreciate that. So this is going to be a little long, but I think it's worthwhile. It would be even more worthwhile if I actually shared the screen. Good times. Okay, so there I am. Like I said, I'm super blurry, but here we go. Stephen Bassett on capital D disclosure.
Here we go. Sorry about that. You're back live.
Okay. Again, I'll be able to.
That's okay.
If it happens again, I'll be able to repair it very quickly. And so,
he had technical
capital D disclosure, starting with a single head of state, was the concept that I have spent 30 years, last 25 years, trying to instill into the discourse. And I think it's worked. I think a lot of people, when they talk about disclosure, they're talking about this formal confirmation event. And that's good. So we have been heading towards that for 78 years. And as it happens, we are now extremely close. We've had a few times when it looked like there was a path to disclosure, capital D, but that path closed. This time we're way much further down the line, and it could happen at any time, believe it or not. Now, the thing that has left things somewhat up in the air is that as it happens, and this is mostly a coincidence, the last weeks, days, weeks, perhaps months of the truth embargo, as I came to call the policy of the government to withhold this from us.
Great term.
It's another term that I kind of instilled, I put out there.
He coined it.
Is simultaneously coming to an end in the middle of extraordinarily disruptive, complicated political developments, both foreign and domestic. And that's just the way that it is. You know, it's like you want to take a nice jaunt out in the country and have a picnic and enjoy the outdoors. And as you're arriving, a major thunderstorm comes in. And so you either turn around and go back, which we can't do, or you pitch a tent, dig in, and wait for it to pass. But you just can't predict everything. So that is what's happening. And what is notable about that is that the disclosure process leading to capital E disclosure has not, while it's been slowed, it has not been reversed or stopped. It is steadily moving forward no matter what is thrown at it. And a lot has been thrown at it. And so that is more confirmation to me that we're about to get it. Because at some point we're going to get a little bit of a break, and you're going to see some major developments, and they're already. So I'm happy to give, go ahead and respond to that, if you will, and then I'll start getting the particulars of why we are so close to ending this truth embargo.
That's good news, first off. I mean, if the, as you put it, truth embargo is collapsing and this capital D disclosure, to use your term again, is going to come to fruition, I applaud that. That's fantastic. Why would, okay, so I have the answer in my head, but for everyone else out there who maybe think this deeply about it, although we have a lot of smart people in our audience.
Yes, we do.
Why do you think such disclosures, such claims were immediately dismissed? Was it panic by the public? I mean, are they going to use that old radio show, War of the Worlds, as an example? Because they've been using it for years, decades.
They used it for a good while. It was one of many little memes that they relied on to sort of dismiss it out of hand. No, it wasn't about panic of the public or any of that. It was, in general, okay, there's a lot of little things you can point to. Even Margaret Mead's study of the cargo cults of the Pacific after the war, all kinds of nonsense. All of them come under the general heading of the American people, the world's people can't handle the truth. And then as the truth started coming...
Okay, I'm going to pause there because, and maybe I'm being petty, but didn't I just say that? Wasn't that the point I just made? Pardon me, I'm eating a cheese. Piece of cheese. But I'm pretty sure I said, and I gave one example, but I thought I in general imparted that. So either Steve wasn't paying attention to me or he was taking things a little too uniformly and not taking a general. I should have said in general, like a thing, I guess, if I'm going to be completely honest with myself and you. But I'm pretty sure that's what I inferred. Anyway, I digress. Let's continue. Capital D disclosure with Stephen Bassett.
And the research was being done by the people, putting forward convincing evidence and narrative that this fact was absolutely true. Then they added another one to that. And I say they, meaning the managers of Truth Embargo. It says that you don't have a need to know, right? In other words, maybe you can handle it, but you don't have a need to know it. And so we're not going to let you know it. And so these things all come under that general heading. And after 30 years in this, I can say with confidence that from the beginning, the problem wasn't the public's not need to know. It wasn't the problem the public couldn't handle the truth, even right after the war. The problem was the government could not handle us knowing the truth. And they had reasons for that, but the principal one was national security. So
I would add to that as we watch this, in that, oh, come on, machine, there we go, that it wasn't so much that the public couldn't handle the truth, it was that if the public was told the truth, like very much like what's happening right now, we, and I say we in the larger sense of like the planet, those of us in the know and watching all this unfold, because not everyone has the internet available to them, or not to the availability, not to the level we do here in the US or Canada, for example. But there's a, with knowledge comes questions for more knowledge. I think that's the point he's kind of getting to, and I think he gets to it eventually. But for me, it felt like that was an unanswered tidbit. It's like, why would they care about us knowing? Well, they care about us knowing because we're going to ask questions. I mean, we have all this fraud being reported, and just to forgive me going off topic here and way outside the paranormal field, but I mean, we've all this fraud being talked about in the news, and people are asking questions. It's like, why would anyone allow that to happen? That's the kind of questions. They're uncomfortable questions. I guess that's why I should call it. Uncomfortable questions would be asked. Questions that, are would be leadership. And don't get me wrong, our leadership is great. I think they're doing a good job with what they got. But our leadership is not prepared to answer these questions. And so why encourage the questions in the first place? That's why you keep a clamp on things. Yada, yada, yada. I think you see where I'm going. Okay. I blathered enough about that part. Let's go back to Stephen and capital D disclosure.
Embargo owes its 70 now 8-year longevity as a absolute lie in the face of obvious evidence worldwide every day to millions of people. It owes its longevity. Probably nothing like it has ever, I don't think anything like it has ever happened in human history. And that it has happened in the modern era in democratic cultures with journalism and mass communications ability, including the rise of the internet and social media and podcasting and everything else, is remarkable. But the reason that it did get through 78 years is the extraordinary synchronicity or simultaneity of the modern era of UAP, the modern era of ET engagement, and the nuclear arms race. These two things virtually started together. And we've come to learn that it's not that they just happen to start together, they are directly connected. So what you have is the beginning of the modern era starts in World War II, very, very light, nothing big, but a lot of plasma, controlled plasma, I think, though I don't know for sure, but controlled plasma.
Are you referring to the Foo Fighters in World War II?
Absolutely. We're being seen shadowing planes of all three major participants in that war, Germany, Japan, and the United States.
Okay, as a point of order, wow, we're not in debate, Tim. As a point of interest, I just wanted to clarify what the heck a Foo Fighter is for the 3 or 4 people in the audience who don't know. And I say it's that small because most of us who enjoy this kind of entertainment and infotainment, we'll call it, because I like to think I provide not only entertainment but information. But so this infotainment that we enjoy, that I enjoy presenting, and I also am a fan of, and as are you, most of us know what Foo Fighters are. For those who do not, or are new to the whole thing, let me briefly explain what a Foo Fighter is. No, it's not a band from the 90s, although it was an excellent band, I will say that. I mean, it was a band from the 90s. That was their name. But the Foo Fighters, or these little orbs, and they were photographed and filmed during the World War II aerial battles all over the world. They would intercept and trail, in some cases, surround different planes. Mostly bombers were the ones they'd surround, but they didn't do anything. If there was a design to them, and some said it was a Nazi design that failed, but they weren't just over Europe. That's where that idea kind of falls apart. So there may have been a heavy concentration over the European aerial combat theater, as they call it in the military. But it was seen globally over Japan, as Mr. Bassett said, over Midway, over the Pacific, over Europe, over Africa. Anywhere there was a hot and or heavy enough air combat situation or the potential for it to be there, these things are flying around. Near misses on planes. Sometimes I think there was one or two documented impacts with these things and the plane goes down. What happened, Joe Smith? Well, Captain Joe Smith. I'm just making that name up. I don't know who this is, the actual guy. But he reported this freaking thing, this metal ball just flew into us, And it wasn't for a lack of trying to shoot these things down either, but the bullets would just not impact. They'd be held in place. And we would later, in Project Blue Book specifically, the captain who helped Dr. Oh my gosh, I can't believe Hynek. Dr. Hynek in Project Blue Book, he went up. He fired on a UFO, and similar to the Foo Fighters, because he also experienced Foo Fighters in World War II, it shot back at him and damaged his plane. But here's what he shot at him with: his own bullets. It captured it in a magnetic field of some sort and fired it right back at him like a modern day, I don't know, rail gun. So that's what rail guns do. They're just stacks of magnets. You just fire a little aluminum projectile through it, and it goes nearly the speed of light, or it's hypersonic at the very least. And anyway, that's a Foo Fighter, ladies and gentlemen. It's a strange orb thing that was reported heavily during World War II aerial combat theater, in the aerial combat theater of World War II, all across the globe. Let us continue. We have a couple more minutes.
Cause any trouble. They didn't shoot anything down. They were reported, but there was a war going on. And that's all. Okay, not a big deal, not scary. But then we ended the war in the Pacific
except for the guys who got shot down. Okay, I'm done.
Something that we didn't necessarily have to do, and that is we dropped 2 nuclear bombs on 2 cities and killed hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children, the vast majority of which were not combatants. And the extraterrestrials saw this, and it changed their agenda. And so right away, more sightings started happening. Now, this is a different time, but sightings of craft started happening and started being reported. This went on through all of 1946, but again, it was not on the radar of the public in general. It was happening, and historians will be able to go back eventually and find articles about this that are now deep in the microfiche libraries of various newspapers or destroyed. But throughout 46, a lot of activity is taking place. We have the famous sighting of Kenneth Arnold over Mount Rainier, of not saucers, but chevron-shaped craft flying in unison, about, I think, 8. This got a lot of news. This was significant. If it wasn't going to be the Kenneth Arnold sighting, it would have been something else. And that generated a lot of stir, a lot of media attention, fairly safe, no big deal. But then one of those craft, because that's the kind of craft that crashed at Roswell, did a crash near Roswell. And because it was early on and didn't have a policy, the Lancer, the head of the base, asked the public relations guy, Walter Hawk, to put out a press release and say, we got a saucer. And at that point, not only the modern era of the UAP engagement of the human race gets underway in force, but the very basic beginning of the truth embargo gets underway, because the moment when Truman was told this, he immediately informed Roger Ramey to sit on it, staunch it, whatever. He didn't tell him, we must never tell the people about this. I doubt that, but rather we need time to think about this. All right, take that press release back. We need time to think this over. This is kind of a big deal, General Ramey. And Ramey did that. The same day the first press release went out, he holds a press conference and says, no, it's a weather balloon.
Wow. Can you imagine? And we went on with Mr. Bassett there for a little bit, but I mean, he goes on to say, without me playing back the entire episode, that our capital D, as he puts it, disclosure and the truth embargo that starts pretty much with Roswell is nothing short of a great wall that went up, just to borrow, I'm kind of paraphrasing, that we have been slowly chipping away at. And there's been no real effort. Wow, Tim. There's been no real effort to rebuild that wall, although there has been something of, well, I guess the best way to put this is it's been speculated. Excuse me. It's been speculated that instead of building up another wall, because we're too informed now, we've asked too many questions, disclosure has gone national, has gone international, because the guys who kept the lid on everything, who had the men in black, the U.S., is suddenly holding hearings. And we're discovering that there is an inner operating mechanism within our government. Very recently, we had Tulsi Gabbard. All right. Head of DHS. No, that's, Homeland Security. I think that's her. I'm drawing a blank. Oh, anyway, head of intelligence. That's what she is. She's head of intelligence. Former military lieutenant colonel, if I'm not mistaken. Had her share of read-ins in the top secret area, made reference openly on mic in her speech very recently about combating the deep state. Her words. P.S. I love my life. I'm not looking to commit suicide, and so there we have it. Just putting that out there. Just to be safe. And it's a sad state of affairs when I have to do that every other show, just because I'm repeating some information. But it still doesn't negate the fact that, yes, we are closer. When I did this interview a year ago with Mr. Bassett, it was just David Grush who came forward. Actually, he was set to come forward and give this testimony, and everyone was waiting on bated breath, because we keep hearing about deep state assassinations or discouragement or something along those lines, whether they're real or fictitious. But I mean, if they're fictitious, there's been a lot of people dropping like flies who Anyway, again, I like my life. I'm not suicidal. Putting it out there. I'm good. So let's examine that a little bit, because we are in a deeper state of disclosure. Although we're starting to see, as I was originally starting to say, we're starting to see certain elements of the media being manipulated, in that they are distracting or focusing on really supposedly important things And I'm getting a little conspiratorial here. I get that. But supposedly important things that, oh, we should be really concerned about this, that, and the other thing, when in reality we have this disclosure thing happening, but we're going to kind of sweep it under the rug type of deal. Yeah, sure, you can have your actual sitting senators conduct these interviews, but, no one's really going to watch it because this is happening over here. So, anyway, I think I'm griping now. I'll stop doing that. But Steve went on to say that, my buddy Steve, Mr. Bassett went on to say that capital D disclosure is not going to end with a visit on the White House lawn with a flying saucer and alien creatures step out and say, "Hello, Earth, how's it going?" Just not going to happen. Maybe back in the 50s, in a cool sci-fi movie or two, it did. Or we just blew it up. I mean, the White House. But I digress. Again, I like my life. I am not suicidal. Tell you what. We've talked about with Mr. Speed. Let me cover one more point with Mr. Bassett. Then we're going to take a quick station identification / commercial break. It's only going to be like 180 seconds. But here's what I have to say about all that. His disclosure methodology is unique because he ultimately says in this interview, and you can watch it for yourself, it's in the archives under the live tab on my channel at YouTube at paranormal_insight. He says that it is going to have to be, and we're kind of leaning toward this, which kudos to him because he got it right. I didn't expect him to get it right, but it'll have to be a series of independent reports that are made public over social media, and we're starting to see that now, where they say, mainstream media is just kind of, I don't know about mainstream media, but the independent guys are getting more and more traction because they're telling more and more truth, getting us more and more legitimate information. At least we hope. You see, you always have that grain of disillusionment, because you can't always trust everything. But it is to say, I will say that most of the independent reporting I tend to trust. And one of these days I'll put a list together what those sources are, and maybe they'll give me some sponsorship money. That would be fantastic. So it'll come through independent channels. Yes, we'll have the hearings. Yes, we'll have 60-minute specials. But chiefly it'll be independent news that'll break, if you will, the disclosure story, I guess. So, without further ado, let's take that quick break, and I'll see you all in about 180 seconds. It's not that long. I'll see you in a bit. This is the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 105.3 in the Gulf Coast. UPRN talkradio.com. Esoteric programming at its finest.
Long ago in the ancient world, the Tribus Omnis Lux, later known as the Tridents, were celebrated heroes, defenders of humanity against unspeakable monsters. Today, they continue that sacred duty in secret, hunting the dark evils that lurk just beyond the shadows. They are the Trident of Light.
Follow us on Instagram at paranormal.insight. Stay informed on upcoming shows, ask questions, and see what chilling paranormal stories we're following. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube at paranormal_insight. Click the live tab to see our latest videos. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Paranormal Insight, and let's continue on with our show. Our next clip is with a good friend of this show and my personal friend, although we've never met in real life, or IRL as the kids used to say. Or M-I-M, Merle. The language is weird. Anyway, this next clip is with a young man. Well, he's a young man to me anyway. Who is a fellow podcaster of the paranormal and the strange. And this is Mr. Tommy Cullum. You know him from Let's Get Freaky, the podcast. And I have to get to my notes while I call up his, there it is, from his thing. So he has this great, fantastic, if not slightly long-winded recount of something he experienced. And this he is the, and these are in no particular order, these videos, but he is one of the top 4 highly watched videos. And Heidi says, welcome back. Thank you, Heidi. I appreciate that. You too. I'm sorry we had to delay things for 180 seconds, but someone's got to not pay the bills. It's all free stuff. But anyway, so Tommy has a very interesting story. Now, not as a podcaster, he's an experiencer. And I mean across pretty much every single aspect of the paranormal. He has seen UFOs. He has seen ghosts. He has seen, cryptids, in my personal estimation. Professional, I should say, estimation as well. But he has about a 3-minute story he's going to share with us here in a little bit as soon as I cue it up. And it goes a little something like this. It starts out when he's a little kid. And, well, I'll let him tell the rest of the story. How's that? Because let me tell you, it was flabbergasting. It was pretty cool, actually. So here he is, Mr. Tommy Cullum.
So when I was 10 years old, me and my brother shared a room. And we lived in a haunted house when we were kids. Like the house was haunted.
Hold on. You knew for sure it was haunted.
Yeah, I mean, at the time we didn't talk about it too much. Obviously, me and my brother, we were young.
Okay.
But it was the classic haunted house. Always weird noises, weird vibes. Things used to go missing. I can remember my mum and dad talking about it when we was kids, and you know, we all knew that there was a side to this. I mean, we had some good times in the house, you know, don't get me wrong, but there was also times that were weird in that house. Like I never used to like being on my own in the house. I remember when I was about 10 years old, and I had a day off sick from school, and the school was right next to the house, and my mum was like, literally 2 minutes from the house.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I was still late nearly every day. But I remember this one day I was at home, I was off school, sick. Well, I probably wasn't too sick, but my mum let me have the day. And I remember she said, I'm going to go and pick up your brother. I'm going to leave you here for 5 minutes. You can even look out the window and you can see me you can see me if you need me. It was that close.
Gotcha.
But I just remember being terrified to be on my own in that house. That stayed in me, that fear. You just felt like there was something watching you there all the time. It was always a weird vibe.
Okay.
But I had a big experience when I was 10 years old. Me and my brother shared a room, and we had bunk beds, and I was on the top bunk. And I remember waking up one night, and you used to get the street lights coming in, so you could see, even when all the lights were off and even when the curtains were shut, you could see pretty well the room. You could still.
I'm pausing here because I wanted everyone to kind of note that shift. And I only noticed it when I was reviewing this stuff the other day. I want you to note that shift as soon as he starts to really get into the story, how he gets a little almost intimidated. I mean, there's a fear that kind of creeps in at the back of his voice. You can sense it. You know, it's like, oh, okay, there's a ride coming right now. We're at the top of the roller coaster, right? The hump before you drop down into the abyss. before the next rise. So we're getting ready to go on a ride. But I had only until I didn't notice it during the interview, but on review, I noticed that shift, that tone in his voice as he tells the story, and I thought that was it made my heart break for him, to be completely honest. But I digress. Let's watch and see what Tommy has to tell us. Okay. Yep. I get it. Sorry, the computer is being a bit of a. Okay, we'll do that one. Here we go.
Where everything was, and we had Fred Flintstone curtains, so I can still remember just seeing Fred Flintstone
Free
and Barney
plug.
Rubble looking at me every night. one night I've woken up, and it was during the night. I'm not sure what time. It was late. My mum and dad were in bed. It was the whole house was dark, and I remember looking down at my desk and seeing a man sitting there, full-bodied, he was just there. And he was just sort of sitting at the desk, looking sort of in my direction. And it terrified me. It freaked, obviously, I was a young boy. There's a man sitting there.
Yeah.
I've screamed for my mum. And he was like, he looked like, I always say when I explain it, to me, he looked like William Shakespeare. That's
Was
the
he
look.
dressed like that?
Yeah. He had long hair. He had a bit of a beard. And he just looked like he was from that era.
Oh,
That's
crazy.
how, yeah. And obviously my mum's come in, calmed me down. She couldn't see him, but he was still there. He was still sitting there.
Wait, he was still sitting there when Mom came in?
Yeah, he didn't go. And I'm, he's there. I didn't get out of the bed, but I was like, he's there. She's gone over to him, feeling around. He didn't move. And she's calmed me down. I was hysterical. And I've got to tell you, I was quite a bad sleeper when I was a kid. Like, I would get up quite a lot during the night because I used to get scared in that house. And I used to want to be in my mum and dad's room. So quite a lot of the time, I think it was a bit of an issue for my mum and dad that I used to do this. So they made a point of, no, you're staying in your room. My mum made me stay in the room that night. And to this day, she still says sorry about it because we spoke about it recently. But, yeah. So
Stay in your haunted room, Thomas.
I had to stay in my haunted room. Yeah.
Okay, so Tommy and I did have a little bit of a laugh about that. It was nice to see him be able to tell the story, but I still hooked onto that sense of fear at the recounting of the story. Tommy would go on to say that this was not the only haunting. Now, and there's another point where I believe he says, "Oh yeah, P.S. Not only was my house next to the school, there was a forest right behind it, and on the other side, a graveyard." Dude, come on, a graveyard. No wonder. And the thing is, his house wasn't that old. His house was built 80s, 90s. The one he was living in, maybe an old house was pulled down in its place and it was rebuilt. But to have, and the way they build English houses is, it's all your parking and stuff is downstairs, and you take a short little flight of stairs upstairs, and that's where the main living is, and that's kind of the house he had. At least that's modern architecture in England, especially in when they're trying to kind of pack people in a smaller community, but still allow for like maybe 200, 300, 400, even 500 people to exist there comfortably. You have the square footage, you got a yard front and back, and the car park, as they like to call it, or the garage, as we like to call it. So you can park your vehicles and what have you. But chiefly, that's a living arrangement. I'm sorry. You walk in, flight of stairs, sure, but downstairs is also the kitchen, the living room, and maybe a den, if you're lucky. Plus the parking garage, and then upstairs is all the bedrooms. But anyway, so he had a relatively modern home he was living in, and I make him, I guess his age, at least at the time that this was recorded, which was 2022, if I know. Yeah, because we just had 2025. So yeah, 2022 sounds about right. This is before I joined the UPRM, but it's worthwhile having him show up here on the channel. But he would go on to say, house isn't that old. Why was there a 16th century dude there? Well, he did live next door to a graveyard. But the funny thing about that is, from a paranormal investigative perspective, usually when you have a spirit that's fully manifested, they've been there a while, dressing like he could have been a cosplayer, Ren Fair guy, maybe. But there was only one other family that lived in that house before Tommy's family, and the husband passed. We don't know what the husband did. He could have been one of these cosplayer Renaissance fair guys. Don't know. But when one, and P.S. It was a couple that lived there, elderly couple. The husband died in that house. So if you're going to take those two things, my guess is this guy was a big time either actor or just, community actor and just loved doing Shakespeare, or he was a cosplayer, dressed up in the gear a lot to go to these different Renaissance fairs, and always saw himself wearing that stuff, because a lot of spirits have their own identity, their own self-image in their heads. When I die, I'm probably going to look like some cross between Indiana Jones and Tom Selleck. And if I come back as a ghost, they're going to go, what the heck is he wearing? But, that's my self-image. Okay, that's a poor example of a self-image and probably not accurate at all. But, I always emulated those two characters as much as I could. And it was a bit of a detriment over the years, but it was still a lot of fun. So, maybe this individual, this spirit, had that experience, because a lot of people, like I said, you look in the mirror, you take a self-portrait in your brain. That's how you think of yourself. And he thought of himself as a pondering, struggling writer of yesteryear. Like 15th, 16th century yesteryear, Wow. That still is an amazing story. And it's not the only one he had. Remember, I said Tommy saw UFOs and cryptids as well. His UFO story is fantastic. And it's on this interview, but I did not bookmark it because I was running short on time. But I'll tell you the story in brief. He sees, now I think this is part of the Belgian wave, where in Belgium, they were seeing all these triangle craft everywhere. Well, I think it was at university, as he puts it. So something on the order of 15, 20 years ago. Terribly sorry. Talking yawn. I have to talk more so I don't yawn so much. He went to he was at university, and he was visiting home, different house I might add. And as he's walking around, and P.S. the new house is by a forest and not too far from a graveyard. Wow. From a paranormal aspect, no wonder you're seeing stuff, dude. He's just been laced and drowned and submerged in that energy for, well, his entire life. So no wonder he has an interest in it. But it's sorry about that. It's still it's still fascinating to me. But in the second house, he sees a UFO, a triangle part, and I think it was part of the Belgian wave, a triangle UFO rather, and it flies over. He takes pictures with it with a cell phone. Not the greatest imagery in the world, but nonetheless, he goes for it. And the cell phone doesn't work. It goes and then dies in his hand. And then he says the triangle kind of turned toward him, or it put a point toward him, and then bam, rockets away. Really cool, rather classic sighting, but that was interesting. Oh, and he also said he had missing time, I believe, which is typical of an abduction scenario. So not only seeing ghosts when he was a kid, he was apparently an abductee. That's a bit more of a cliff note of that, not a cliff note, but a note, a margin note to take that he could possibly be an abductee, lifelong abductee. And then there's the cryptid stuff. Wow. I mean, I wish I had it queued up. Unfortunately, I don't. But the story is something like this. He works nights. And when I say nights, he gets off work at 1 a.m. And his work isn't too far from where he lives currently in his own place, which, yep, you guessed it, it's by a forest and not too far from a graveyard. Not too far from a graveyard, in case I over or underpronunciated that. Tommy has the weirdest. Anyway, sorry, that just cracks me up. I mean, not that it's funny, that's just weird that time and time again, either his parents or he, and I think even like his family, it's a weird little thing. They all live pretty close to the forest. They all live pretty close to a graveyard, and well, at least in Tommy's case, his work or wherever it is he has to go, school when he was a little kid, and now work is maybe 3 or 4 blocks away from his house. Convenient. He doesn't need a car that much. So he's walking home one night, and he sees this elderly lady sitting at a bus stop. And she's she sees him, or he sees her. I beg your pardon. Sorry about that. Well, he sees her just kind of toddle to the bench and sit there for a bit. And I'll give you a rough perspective. So he's walking down the street. He's pretty far away. Maybe, I think he said 100 meters, which is roughly a football field, roughly. And away from this woman. And he's getting progressively closer because that's the direction of his house. And she's sitting there, and she's got her little bag in her hands. I think that's what he said. Or he had her hand. She had her hands gathered in front of her. I think he did this motion, like. So my instinct was she had a handbag of some sort, one of those larger ones. And then she kind of looks at him like this. It's like, what the heck are you doing out here? Well, he kind of just keeps walking and kind of keeps a peripheral eye on her. And she kind of follows him for a little bit. And then she gets up, toddles around the back end of, it's one of those sit-down bus stops that has a cover over it, like I think they call it a bonnet, but don't quote me on that. But protect it from the elements and stuff like that if it gets too bad. She walks behind there. As Tommy Tommy's almost in line with this bus stop. He's still got to go around the corner. And he says, well, that's weird. I mean, was she afraid of me? What's going on? I mean, Tommy's not a rough-looking dude. He looks like, look at that smile. I'll show you this guy again. Look at this smile. That's a happy-go-lucky dude. I mean, beard or no, that's a happy individual right there. He's not too threatening at all. I mean, nice guy, right? So, who knows? but she seems to be a little intimidated, goes behind the bus stop and kind of hides from him. So he keeps looking and he slows it down just a little because suddenly she's just not coming up from behind there. Okay. And mind you, this is 1:30 in the morning. Are the buses even running then? And I asked this question, and Thomas says, I didn't even consider that. I don't think they are. I was like, uh-oh, okay. So he gets back on track, and he keeps walking, but then more movement catches his peripheral. And as he whips over to look, a fox trots out, looks at him very similarly, on all fours now, cocks its head like the old lady did, and then proceeds forward and then kind of trots a little bit faster into the nearby forested area. For those of you who are thinking kitsune or kitsu, I was with you. Yeah, that was my thought as well. Shapeshifter at the minimum, kitsune at the max, and or vice versa, perhaps. But that's a fascinating experience, and the thing is, it happened inside of 60 seconds. All this, so there's not a lot of detail to go on. And he goes on to say that, yeah, I kept looking for her, but you know what I kept seeing? The fox. The fox, same coloring, same pattern on the fur would show up all the time across the street, looking at him, puzzling over him. It's like, oh, dude, walk away. Just ignore the fox lady. Okay? You do not want to get a kitsu or a kitsune's attention. And the funny thing is, we've talked about the paranormal M theory, my paranormal M theory, that a lot of things are related and are more global than perhaps even we like to admit or know anything about. I'm sorry, I just realized I've been broadcasting rather dim on this whole time. But anyway, so if there are kitsu in China and kitsune in Japan, relatively close land masses, I grant you, but I know the Irish Celtic, and the Scot Celtic have legends of similar shapeshifters. I don't remember what they're called specifically, but they land in the general category of the Fae and Fae folk and all that fun stuff. I'm not saying it is, but I'm not saying it isn't. So that is something to ponder, consider, what have you. Interesting stuff. So Tommy is just a great guest, and again, one of our more highly watched shows over the years. This next person you're probably going to know quite well, and I'm ending with her only because there is a great deal to go over and recount and to comment on. And I'm inviting, yes, Heidi, I couldn't agree more. Tommy is amazing. And hey, I'm looking at the wrong piece of paper. So, yeah, okay. So first off, I'm going to show you a piece of footage. Now, this piece of footage is from our case number 1601. Yes, we've been in business that long that we have a case number of 1601. Been doing it a while. It's fascinating stuff. So let me call that up. And in case 1601, we had the very, very, very unique opportunity to be part of an investigation where Let me get there. Let's see. Second show me. There it is. Okay. Okay, I'll show you that whole bit. We have a poltergeist. One of the few I've actually investigated, but this is, I think, my third. JJ's fifth or sixth or umpteenth, I'm sure, but she was a little more comfortable with the happenings. I was a little more academic about it on the case on the day, but it was still basically a paranormal investigation, any basic paranormal investigation. So as we get into this, the first thing we're going to see is the footage that I was sent by the client, and it's, to say the least, fascinating. And it's not a lot. It doesn't like show a portal into another world or something like that, but let's get it up there and so you can see for yourself. Okay, so we're mid transition here on the thing, and I'll let it play. I'll just see if I can manipulate it a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I got a text, and this is one of the video files that was attached. We're going to try this again, ladies and gentlemen. It should go up. You'll watch the foil move, and then blap, there goes the spatula, which is cool. So I'm going to back that up for everybody because I got to show you this in slow-mo. Okay, so the foil peels back, right? But it doesn't peel back. I re-examined this when I was putting this together. Watch the foil move and then blap. Yeah, there. I know what I said. But let me show you that again. It actually is just a spatula being brought out from underneath the foil. And the foil's loosely on there, I grant you. But look at how it moves. Blap. Zip. It takes the foil with it. See, my initial understanding was it just peeled back. It didn't. The spatula actually, like, escapes, for lack of a better term, escapes the enchilada tray, and there we have it. Okay, let us resume. Blap, there goes the spatula, which is cool. So, that's pretty funny. But, I mean, and then the chair also moved. But when we get a call, a case, typically, it's a Q&A. But since this is over text almost exclusively, I guess she communicates better in that way versus talking on the phone. That's fine. I conducted, we got some information about what's going on, how long it's been happening. We got the 2 examples of what they're experiencing. And that's just the physical stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your... Are you having fun over there?
I'm trying to join the chat, and it's making me do all these crazy login things.
Let me skip ahead a little bit. So we had a little bit of fun with all that fun stuff. We had some technical issues, but it was about here that we jump into JJ's. Check that. I'm in the wrong spot. We jump into JJ's first assessment of the case, and we do go on about it a little bit here, but she really kind of lays down what her take was on all this. So let's jump into that.
Yeah, so we hit all of those, and then we went over by the people.
Okay, by all of those, she means all the hot spots that the clients told us about. Just I got in a little early on this, and then we talked to the people.
And that was interesting because my first assessments, which I had told you, is this is more the inhabitant related versus property. And it definitely was the case. The interesting thing about this, and for all of you in the chat, first of all, hi, I love all of you for showing up. Thank you.
Hi, Eric
Because I was so nervous about
Ms.
this.
Blood.
P.S. I do love all of you in the chat and all of you watching at home too. That's fantastic. Thanks so much for being here. Let's us continue.
Others showed up and all that fun stuff. That's fantastic. Heidi's here too. Hi, Heidi. Yeah, all right, Heidi, good buddy. Yeah. All right.
Well, normally in these cases, you get people who they want us to come out. They want a diagnosis. They want to understand what's happening.
They want some
And
validation.
as well as just like what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So overall, I'm getting all of these markers saying we're going to have a lot of resistance in this situation, which is interesting because the people themselves, they were so sweet, so nice.
Yeah.
And
They were.
everyone was pleasant and they wanted us. They're very inviting, like go anywhere you want. And I keep having to stop people. Don't tell me all the deets yet. Like let me tell you first, and then you can share with me, because I really want a cold read. It's very, very easy if I'm getting something to hear what someone else is saying or feeling, and then your mind just goes, oh, well, it's this, instead of me doing what we do, which is investigating.
Right.
Okay, I pause it there for a reason. Just to kind of reiterate what she said and to bolster what she said. As a paranormal investigator, yes, we are there to investigate. Can't investigate too cold, not from my perspective anyway. But when it comes to Jackie, I used the wrong word there. When it comes to JJ, Jackie is someone else. When it comes to JJ, it's all about being able to get a positive first time impulse. If she has other information floating in her head, she's just as human as the rest of us in that respect. It may influence her read on what it is she's perceiving. And her ability to perceive way outside a normal person's perspective? Perceive outside of perspective. Okay. Grammar, my horrible grammar notwithstanding, that ability it has to be not only cultivated, but it has to be supported, especially in the field, especially in this particular instance of an investigation. Otherwise, false readings crop up and then the investigation's tainted and we more or less have to hand it off to someone else who may be less qualified. In fact, I think we're still, with one or two exceptions, are the only investigative team in our city. The whole city. If you look up where San Jose, California is, we are gigantic. We're bigger than San Francisco. And I think we have like 1.5 times its population currently. I mean, anyway, the whole city only has one team to go to, and that's these guys right here. I'm surprised more ghost activity hasn't been happening, but who knows? Anyway, so having the lack of input and information it's hard for me to do because she is my partner in this investigation or all my investigations. And typically you share information with your partner, but when it comes to her, you can't. You got to cut her off. I mean, she's a fantastic psychic specialist, says so on her chest. That's the title I gave her because she is so talented with everything she does that it's hard to pin down what she does. So psychic specialist answered that. But we're going to move ahead a little bit, and we're going to talk to, and this is why I said Jackie earlier, because Jackie is a commenter on the episode, and Heidi probably remembers this because she was there too. And let me get it back to, okay. Okay, I'll back it up just a hair. There we go. Okay, so let's take a look at this because Jackie brings up an interesting point. I want to bring up Jackie's comment here, and she says how interesting it is that energies change between the inside and the outside. And that's very true. We found that to be the case forever, really, since we started doing this. So, yeah, the energies shift radically. And I think there's something to be said for kind of grounding outside as you're being outside. I think that has something to do with it. What do you think? Let me add real quick that there was, and Jackie's the person, JJ's the, okay, JJ, JJ, we'll say something to this in a minute, but I think it's worth prefacing anyway, that there was a moment where we were taken outside, or I'm sorry, I was taken outside, and we'll get into that part, that, how our investigations work in a little bit. In fact, it'll be a 10-minute segment, but it'll be, it's not the first time I've experienced something where there's stuff happening inside and stuff happening outside, but it is a strange dynamic when you have all of that happening at once. Yeah. Yes, and Heidi agrees with me. Let me show that to everyone real quick. Heidi agrees with me that she has seen this for herself, and that's exactly what we experience, and we talk about it here. So, well, I guess I'll shut up and let JJ and I talk from the past.
Yes, right. And also inside, it didn't matter how many lamps you put on, this place is just dark. It's small, the way that it's situated. It has a lot of shadows. It's interesting. So when we got outside, it was still semi-daylight.
I have to add one thing. And we'll talk about this briefly, but it's an interesting point to make because I think there were more energies in confluence there. Confluence. We'll use that for now, because this space that we were in, one family lived in one half of a longer structure. There was another family the front half of this thing. So basically, it was a single-story duplex. But originally, it was a farmhand bunkhouse built in 1948. Okay, so that's at least 24 guys crammed into this, what? Oh gosh. Something like 100-foot space, 100 foot by, we'll call that 20 deep space, nothing but bunks, maybe a stove back in the day. So I think there's something to be said there. And we're also going to talk about a farmhand ghost we saw. So again, let me just hit play and shut up. But it's interesting to note that it was a bunkhouse. Oh, hit play, Tim.
And it was like the light, how the light changes everything. You can see all of a sudden. And all of a sudden, no one was freaking out. There's not something lurking in a shadow because there were no shadows.
Yeah.
So great point, Jackie. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent point. Okay, so what we typically do is we do a tech through. JJ has this little EMF detector / radiation detector, and we went through all the hotspots in the house, and we found that we're living in, and I don't know who coined the phrase. It could have been Jason Hawes. I'm not sure.
but it's a fear box. So all this EMF was running into this house that was built in 1948, and apparently they never updated wiring. So you have uninsulated wiring in almost 100-year-old house almost, and burning, especially the fuse box. I mean, it was bleeding through the walls. This orb of EMF that was pretty toxic. And then along the sides of the house, they had poles. Still, all their power was aerial.
Ariel.
So all the power was running down into the things and in the house, and it was running alongside the tops of the house. And right where they were seeing things, it was like whatever was happening in there. And the ladies there especially are gifted. We agreed on that. I think it was just kind of bumping up whatever activity they were perceiving, and it just kind of overclocked their minds in that respect, on with regard to that specific talent, I guess you can call it. And that was my assessment anyway. But it was interesting when she says, "Yeah, well, I'm seeing something here, I'm seeing something there." So we go around with the machine, the detector, and yeah, sure enough, hotspot here, hotspot there. All EMF, burying the needle. They had some weird placements and stuff. Their Wi-Fi is right next to their door, and we walk
Which
in
is
the room.
right next to where they sit and watch
Yes,
TV.
right. Yeah, it's right next to the couch. So it's buried behind the couch, and we turn a little meter, and we said, "See how red that is? That's really bad." So you might want to think about aligning that
Well,
somewhere else.
I pause there because actually I won't pause there. Let's just keep rolling.
Store. I mean, they can't do too much about the wiring. At least like a rewire the house.
True, but if you think about
But
it,
that's
electrical EMF like that is a very easy way, just like water, for energy to come through and manifest, which is
and
why
they have a
they were
creek
getting,
running right by them. I mean, they were getting
So-
inundated by all kinds of energy.
but that's why
Oh,
everything
literally.
was so visible there. I mean, I was seeing, there was a lot. There were some parts of this that I'm going to dance around just to kind of keep their anonymity, but I had received information when we were inside the house that there was a family member who had an attachment.
Right.
And and that said attachment was a generational attachment. So it got passed down. And that it wasn't passed down to them because this family member was still alive, but that this thing was trying to and was coming around when this very specific person would show up. Well, what was interesting is the direct sibling of that family member ends up showing up at the house. And so he pops in and he's like, "Hey, here you have a question." I said, "Yeah, was so-and-so troubled?" And I got that far. And the response was, "Oh my God, their entire life, like psychiatrist after psychiatrist." And I said, "Well, what about your grandmother taking them to like a healer?" And they said, "Yeah, they were taken multiple times." And I said, "Okay." And they said, "But the grandma who took them understood that the attachment they had came from her because she had it originally. And then when the other one was born, it passed down." But what ended up happening is this person with the attachment likes it and has really leaned into just being a really mean, awful personality, apparently. They have redeeming qualities, but everyone I talked to who knew this person was like, yeah, like they're known for being a major bleep word.
Yeah, I feel it too.
Yeah. So what was interesting is I thought, okay, I'm going to table that for a little bit. And then when we did the spirit box session, we were in the kitchen during that because we wanted to go inside so we could actually hear, especially with 3 spirit boxes going. And we're standing in there, the spirit boxes are going, and all of a sudden I look up and this ancient Aztec deity basically tries to bum rush in the windows because we were in like a little kitchen nook.
Right.
And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I felt like the lady from the farm with her emo, where I'm like, stop.
Kevin, knock it off.
So I stop it and I was like, because I barricaded the house with a bubble and protection just so we could figure out what we were dealing with at that point. And also I didn't want us exposed to it. I was tired. It was a long day.
It was a long day.
Yeah. And so I'm trying to figure out like what is this? So eventually I end up going outside. And Tim, you've seen me at many investigations. I normally don't smoke.
Not on site, no.
No. And normally like I'll leave or it's one or two and I'm fine. But I mean, your girl was smoking up a storm and they were fine with it. It wasn't an issue. So I went outside and as I'm smoking, it's attracted to the tobacco. And so I'm asking, okay. And it's like, oh, is that for me? And I said, well, not necessarily, but like we can chat. And
Yeah,
so
sure.
what I got
So-
was that it was a very, very old
Take it, Chucky. Chucky has to leave.
visit hall.
Sorry. Let me briefly pause here. We're running out of time, so I'll do this briefly. When she refers to they, just for clarification's sake, she's referring to this Aztec entity. It's like, oh, is the tobacco for me? Interesting. Which is just interesting because that was one of the old sacrifices, was to burn tobacco for the older entities. Okay, let's move on.
It was a super old entity that had made a deal with this family a very long time ago. Like, I'm not even putting years on it. We're talking,
Eons, decades.
pyramids were being built
Right,
generations
right,
ago.
Right.
And over time, like everyone in the family knew how to work with it, how to honor it. Their deal was a deal.
Right.
And then when Catholicism really came in and had stripped all that culture away and had replaced, fear everything, right? If it's not Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
And they were no longer doing the old ways. It was getting angry, which is why the family member that it was mainly attached to was so angry, because they also didn't know what to do with it. And so when they leaned into being a insert word there,
Starts
that
with a B.
was giving it a sense of power. It was getting some emotional energy from it finally and just becoming a part of a personality. And also, it wasn't happy.
I'm going to fast forward just a minute.
Want is a bored entity.
Yeah.
Who is, we'll call it neutral, right? Because it's willing to do good or bad for you depending on the deals. And so it when I say neutral, meaning like it doesn't have the same morals and values we do. And all of a sudden it's bored and it just wants to become a chaos gremlin. It's not going to leave on its own because of the bind, that it's. Anyway, Sheila's question is wonderful.
Sheila's question, yes. She
Imagine this.
asks if people reach out to you for help but don't want to clear anything out. They reach out to begin with. Is it just to confirm there's something there? Sometimes, yes. Most times they do call us for help. I mean, to get rid of this stuff, and that's because of JJ, we are able to do that. And I've told the story on my show several times how she was on her first night there. We threw her into the deep end, and she kicked some serious butt, spiritually speaking, of course. Yeah, it is. Validation is certainly a part of it. Some people do stop there, but most people want it gone. But JJ's analysis rang pretty true. They weren't ready to have all that gone because there's already some other issues happening with them that are going to just exacerbate, and they have to kind of get their ducks in a row before anything can really be done to alleviate them of the spiritual attachment. So,
Okay, so that brings up a very, very good point. As long-winded as all that was, and I apologize. First, let me say a little something to Heidi because she shared this with us, and I can't read it because I hit the wrong button. There we go. I've wondered about old fuse boxes and energies conduct through that. I've been in Kansas, in rural Kansas, and had an old fuse box, and the house was super active. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's very true. That's exactly right. That's why some of the aerial, the old power coming through the telephone poles, like the aerials, not the aerials, aerials are antennas. But they're coming in on telephone poles. You'll actually really kind of ramp up the available EMF that spirits tend to like to interact with and use as a, for lack of a better term, power source. So that's also, and not entirely, but it's also why more modern buildings, houses, stuff like that have more updated power systems and fuse boxes and the like are less susceptible to hauntings because the wiring's already shielded. Everything's almost digital, so you can't haunt through zeros and ones necessarily. But I mean, it's been done, but it's not always the case. In fact, rarely is it the case through the digital means. But if you have proper wiring and your wiring comes from the ground, there's the rub, grounded already, believe it or not. So whether it was intentional or unintentional or just to make a skyline in a neighborhood look better, we may never know. There has always been suspicion that a lot of this would be gentrification, where you actually remodel the street and take down the telephone poles or power poles and underground all your stuff, is intentional on a more spiritual level, believe it or not, versus a matter of convenience. Things to consider. One thing we did take away from this case that I kind of want to touch on briefly before we get out of here on this lovely New Year's Day, on the first day of 2026, is that when we do an investigation and we run into these roadblocks, it's a matter of communication. Sorry, I don't think you can hear me that well. It's a matter of communication. Wow, I'm too hot. There we go. Check. There we go. It's a matter of communication with the client. Now, in this case, the clients, within the house stopped communicating with us. Or they kept insisting that a single thing was happening over and over again when, thank you for the audio check, Heidi. We told them, listen, this is how you stop that. But they seem to be wanting more attention, I guess is the word. It's not like I'm not going to do a live investigation. I mean, maybe later down the line we could pull off something like that, but we're going to go to like Waverly Place, not someone's private residence. Waverly Place. P.S. If anyone's out there and wants scary paranormal to come to Waverly Place and do an investigation, we're willing. Just putting that out there. But yeah, not all the time, but most times, if it's a matter of if we didn't have this ancient entity that, thank God, JJ was able to detect and interact with, and get a sense of what was really happening, we probably would have cleansed it. And guess what would have happened? Things would have been calm for 2 or 3 weeks, maybe, and then everything would have ramped right back up. So it's a matter of doing certain ritualistic things, even though you might be Catholic or Christian or stuff like that. Your ancestry matters. And you have to take that into consideration when you say, get rid of this for me. And when we tell you to do stuff, as JJ did with these clients, you have to follow through, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tim Sedano. This is Paranormal Insight. If the finger works, there it is. And that is all the time we have for today. I want to thank you all for joining me. I want to wish you all a wonderful new year, and we'll see you next week on Paranormal Insight. If you have a paranormal experience that you would like to discuss on the show, please email us at paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. That's paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com.